Oh, yeah. Freak out, freak out. Yeah, I'm looking right into the video scope, And this is Macho Man, #1 Macho Man impersonator, past, present, future, yeah. And I'm here to tell you, you are watching 49er Minded with Bashar. Yeah, the cream of the crop. Dig it?
49er Mind is it's not just a thought process, but a way of life. 49er Mind, 49er Mind, can't shake it. It's 49er Mind that I got. It's 49er Shine that I got. My psyche's on another Frisco Super Bowl. Don't sit slow, cause here we go with a super show. A red and gold session. About a red and gold obsession. With some well-controlled expressions. Let's talk about that win that we got. Who should have been in the spot? That's how it's been in the spot. Let's roll that back, all that crack, all that straight fumble sack. Or just dial it on up if you wanna talk smack. It don't matter what the story line, as long as the story aligns with a 49er mind. 49er minded. It's not just a thought process, 49er minded, but a way of life. The Shar. 49er minded. Way of life. 49er minded.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. I'm your host, Bashar. It's great to have you guys on. Before we get things started, I just want to say what's up to some early birds that hopped up in the chat. Who was here? Who was here first, actually? It was Kenny. Kenny's always talking about that #1 defense. What's up, Kenny? Repping the Niners big in the Pacific Northwest. We got Raphael 562 Niners says, what's up, Bashar, Javier, and everyone? Yep, Javier is going to come on very soon. We got John Lynch says, what's good? Well, Laura's in the house. Yeah, great to have you guys on early. Some other guys are probably going to come in late, better late than never. But let's bring our guest on. We got Javier Vega from the Fourth and Goal podcast. How you doing, bro? How's life?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing great, man. I'm really happy to have you on. And you know, it's probably one of the most boring parts. There's certain boring cycles within the Niners offseason that happens. But as crazy diehard Niner fans that we are, we always find a way to talk about it. But we may be the only ones talking about Niners this much of this early at this time of year, and everybody else is doing whatever they got to do. But at the end of the day, man, I never get bored of it.
Yeah, no, the Niners they stay relevant. They stay in the news cycle. You know, Jed York is probably reaping all the benefits. You know, that's how you get your revenue. You know, whether it's ESPN, NFL Network, you know, Pro Football Network, or whoever it is, as long as the name is out there, it's going to generate clicks, it's going to generate money for the 49ers. So that's the plus side of all this. You know, it's never ending. You know, the season ends and kind of dies off, but we're getting close to the draft. For 20 days away from the draft. So, you know, it's going to ramp up here soon. What the Niners are going to do with their draft picks, if someone's getting traded, who's on the block. And, you know, this is where the fun starts of the season. Free agency was kind of boring, but, you know, once the season's over, it's free agency and then the draft. And, you know, after that draft, then then it's OTAs, and it's a constant cycle. There's like literally maybe a 4-week dead period in there, and that's it. So, you know, for guys like us who've done this content stuff for a while, you got to, you know, kind of keep generating it and find new things and figuring it all out. But, you know, as long as you stay after it, it'll work out.
Yes, sir. Raphael in the chat says, like and subscribe, everyone. If you're a brand new viewer, or if you're a routine viewer, but you're not necessarily subscribed, just hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button, always helps. We got some newcomers in the chat. We got Brian Edwards, says it's like the Spider-Man meme. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but whatever, I'll take it. We got JKBG. He says, Javi, YouTube cameras like getting Nate Dogg on your track. Okay. Well, that's a good thing, right? RIP Nate Dogg. Being compared to Nate Dogg. There you go. Niner Nathful MTL says, Niner Faithful from Montreal, Canada, says, go Niners. Great to have you on the show, man. Never seen you guys before. Really, really appreciate it. For those of you guys who aren't following Javier Vega on social media, just click the description box of this video. I have the link to the Twitter and the Fourth and Goal podcast. And let's just get it started, man. How'd you become a 49er fan? How did it all happen?
Just when I was younger, you know, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, so surrounded by Eagles fans and stuff like that. So I didn't really lean towards the Eagles. My cousins are a little bit older than me, so I just followed them. You know, Jerry Rice, the late run of Joe Montana into the Steve Young years. You know, I'm 36, so you guys do the math. You know, 8 years old, 9 years old when they win the Super Bowl. You know, I just kind of stuck with them, you know, all the way through. I lived in Seattle for a while, so when the Niners were pretty bad, Seattle was coming up, and I've done that. So I've just been a diehard Niner fan. I shouldn't even say diehard. I've just been a Niner fan for a long time. Um, it just hasn't left me, right? So like they were good when I was younger, they were bad when I was in high school years, bad when I was in the military, and then they've been good the last, you can say they've been decent for the last 7 years. So I mean, they've been in and out of this, this cycle. So, I've constantly stuck with them and monitored them and just kind of tracked the following of the team. And, I've always been the kid who used to go grab the newspaper on Sunday or Monday to check the scores, check the stats, because I grew up in Philadelphia or outside of Philadelphia. So we didn't get very many Niner games. So that, for people out there who think I like the numbers, that's part of why, I didn't have that ability as younger when I was coming up. Having a computer or internet back in the day wasn't a big deal, because like I said, I'm 36. So just do the math. When I was in elementary school, middle school, it wasn't like a huge thing to, oh yeah, I get the Niners score. All I got was ESPN, and maybe the local news will show the scores for the day, but most of the time it was just Philly teams. So, but yeah, no, I've been a Niner fans. Been a Niner fan for, they're going on almost 30 years. I live in Austin now, like Niners throwback just said. So it's all Cowboys fans around me. So, but since I was about 7 or 8, I've been a Niner fan. So I just stuck with them, from the Ricky Water days to Hurst. Even Kevin Barlow was one of the guys I liked. Mike Rumph was Ashante Spencer. Like the list is long. Like I remember these guys and Julian Peterson and all these other guys coming through. So it's I just stuck with them. Just haven't had I don't hop on teams or hop around. You know what I mean? I just stuck with the Niners, and that's who it is.
It must have been pretty tough though, because Philly probably barely ever played any Niner games out where you lived, unless you had DirecTV or something, the NFL package.
Yeah, or if you had like the hot box back in the day.
You cheated.
You just stealing cable and shit. But I didn't have any of that stuff. So I just, kind of just looked at the newspaper on Monday and, and hope for my parents let me stay up late enough to catch the late night ESPN recording where they would show the highlights with, Stuart Scott and all those guys. So, but yeah, no,
You gotta love those old school Chris Berman
Yeah,
highlights
exactly.
where he'd have a nickname for every player and all that stuff. Let me see what up the 49er throwback. He says, hey, I'm a Ricky Waters guy here. Oh, Ricky Waters was a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this really quick. So I see that jersey hanging out in the background on the wall. Was that Deion Sanders or Frank Gore?
No, that's Frank. I got a whole bunch of stuff up here. When I was podcasting regularly, I had my office kind of switched around so you could see everything. But I turned my office into just a gym because I haven't had the time to pod as much. But I have plenty of memorabilia. I got the Frank Gore one here. Jeff Garcia sent me a jersey a couple years ago. I got a Patrick Willis autograph stuff. I got a whole bunch of stuff. Frank Gore sent me this a couple years ago, a little autograph mini helmet. The upsides to podcasting, you get to meet some people, meet some players, and they send you some cool stuff. So, but I got a whole bunch of stuff on there. So
that's cool, man. You got a whole lot more than the average 49er fan does. That's for sure. I got a couple of things signed. My most recent one was a Charles Haley signed autograph hat. So that was pretty cool when I met him at the tailgate, and a lot of fun. Oh, we got Razor in the house. What's up, Razor? If you guys ever followed Rombo show back in the day, Razor was a very popular caller on there. So what's up, Bashar? Good to have you here, bro. Yeah, man. Let me ask you this. So what was the first 49er jersey that you ever owned?
My first one was a TO jersey. I had the white, like iron-on one you get at like Macy's. It was the white TO jersey with the that burgundy with the gold outline and the black outline. That was my first one. So that was the first one I had. And I got that like, I don't know, I want to say it was like 10th grade, 11th grade, something like that. Maybe even 9th grade, because I was like working doing little odd jobs here and there to just make a little side money. My parents wouldn't buy me that kind of stuff, so I just had to go get it myself. So yeah, TO is the first jersey I had. And then I just didn't buy anything because I went to the military and I just didn't have room for any of that stuff. So once I got out of service, that's when I started making sure I got my collection stuff going and, had my own place and, just little things here and there. You start adding it up and it comes together. And then, like I said, when I started podding, I got a lot of cool stuff from former players and coaches and, the Senior Bowl access and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's, I do collect. I try to collect. I don't spend as much as I used to on it because I got kids and I'm not as, I don't know. I think I'm not as committed to making these large purchases anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the point? But I do have some pretty cool stuff in the house.
I get that feeling too, as far as spending. Biggest Niner fan, I'm not gonna just spend all the money I have on Niner gear or Niner merchandise.
Yeah, it gets expensive. These guys switch teams like they switch underwear, so it's like, All right, man. I usually just buy if I'm gonna buy anything, it's to be after they sign that extension. Like, you know what I mean? Like I
There
bought
you
I
go.
just
Me too. With Bosa,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting
So
for that.
like
So should I buy his jersey? Oh, well, he's got a contract extension coming up.
yeah, so I mean I did buy a Fred Warner jersey because that's that's the guy that I think is gonna be a 10-year Niner, so it's worth having it. So, it depends on the player, right? Like Fred was one guy that I bought a jersey for, like for certain. So that was just one. And then I made sure I got a collection of some rookie cards of his. So you never know, that guy may end up in the Hall of Fame. So that stuff's worth money.
Oh yeah. I have a question. Do you have any cool experiences or stories in terms of meeting 49er players?
I met Solomon Thomas a couple years back. I don't know if you guys ever go back to anyone can go back to it. There's a podcast right when um he first got drafted, or after he got second year in the league, when his sister unfortunately passed away. Um I had left a comment on Matt Mayoko's podcast, and he asked my question. I didn't have a question. I just told him that, being prior military, that we support him, and suicide is something that you deal with in the military, and if he just make sure he talks about it and stuff like that. That's kind of expressed that through Matt Mayoko, and then I ended up having field passes in 2019, and he was on the sideline and he walked by, and I said, "Hey, Solomon, I explained him the situation." He's like, "Oh, I remember that question." So me and him talked for like 10 minutes before the Atlanta game. Really cool guy. He signed a hat for me, and we just chopped it up for a few seconds. I've met Joe Staley on the podcast. I've met um, Jeremy Curley, former 49er. He lives in Hutto, Texas, which isn't too far from me. He has like it's crazy. If you go up to Hutto, Texas, in their stadium, they have like this big mural of him. It's like orange and it's hippos, Hutto hippos, and it's like Jeremy Curley in his Niner jersey, and I think he played for the Jets or something like that. And it's like a couple montages of him there. So I've met him a couple times. And just guys guys that came on my podcast, Ben Garland. I've spoken to Aaron Boone. I've spoken to. I got to meet Jerry Rice. That was pretty cool. That was on the sidelines in that 2019 um, field pass access that I had. I met Navarro Bowman last year, thanks to John Chapman. We were supposed to do a podcast. I just didn't do it because I don't have time for it anymore. So there's some cool stuff that's happened over the last couple of years with the pod, and being able to go to the Senior Bowl. You meet coaches and scouts and agents and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, you met a whole lot of them. I met a few here and there. I don't really care if I meet any more players, to be honest with you. It'd be cool if I do, but the one player I do want to meet is Jay Rice. You said you met Jay Rice, and I always want to mention that. Like, I have to meet Jay Rice. That's like one of my bucket list type of things, man. But it's always cool running into players. And let me see what's up to some cool people that I know, some cool peeps, good buddies of mine. Some of them are content creators. Gonna shout all you guys out. Don't trip, man. We got Paul Hope in the house all the way to the UK. Says he's got his number 54 Fred Warner jersey. There you go, gold one. Okay. We got Ted Talks Ball. What up, Ted? How you doing? Says what's up, Raphael, Fernando, and Laura. Probably said what's up to us earlier. Good dude, man. We got here? Platform 246. I'm gonna actually be doing a spinoff of this channel. Well, it's gonna be on this channel, but try kind of way to kill time in the off season. It's gonna be a nostalgia wrestling type show, basically based on like 80s wrestling, 90s wrestling, and a little bit of the early 2000s, more so the wrestling that I watch, because I don't really watch anymore. But it's going to be called From Parts Unknown. And Platform 246 is going to be my co-host, Lawrence Jackson. If you guys know who he is, it's a big Niner fan. Says what's happening, faithful bash and guest. We got Pete. Pete's in the house from Niner Fanatic Podcast. Good to have you here. We got Bay Area Ballers somewhere. I saw him up here. Bay Area Ballers here. What's up, bro? Good to have you here, man. It's always good to have you. Bay Area Baller has a great channel. Check out his YouTube channel. Says what's up, Bashar and Javi. And we got the guy who did, if you heard the rap before my show started, the intro, the song, 49er Minded theme song, it's 49er dude rapping on the track all the way in Southern California. So shout out to him. He says, bang, bang, look who's in the building. That's a lyric to one of his songs. So, he's got a lot of really, really cool 49er hip hop music on his YouTube channel. Check it out, 49er dude. Great guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him on the night before the opening night, actually, at this big event that we had for the Niner Empire at this bar in Santa Clara. It was a lot of fun, man. It's always good hanging out and chilling with Niner fans and running into them on social media. But do you remember the first 49er game that you ever attended? Or was it at the Stick by any chance?
Well, no, my first game was My first game was in Seattle. It was the Patrick Willis pick six. I think it was against it's either Travaris Jackson or Matt Hasselbeck. I didn't like I said, I grew up in Philly, outside of Philadelphia, so my parents didn't have the money to take us to Eagles games, or I couldn't travel to California as a kid,
Yeah,
right?
that's a long way. That's a long
We
way.
just didn't have the money. So my first big game was when I was in the military. MWR, if you're former military, you know what that is. It's like a just a wellness and recreational type of morale thing that they do for service members, who are far away from their families. The Niners happened to come to town. That I went to that game. I had I don't know, I was sitting like 15 rows from the Seattle Seahawks sideline. So it was a really good game. The Niners ended up winning that one. And then the actual one that I actually bought tickets on my own, I didn't have the money after I got the service. I ended up going to the Seattle game in 2013 where the Niners beat the Seahawks 19 to 17. That was that 2013 year when the Seahawks ended up winning the Super Bowl. But Kaepernick, and he threw a touchdown pass to Vernon. That was a good game. So that was my first one. That was at the Stick. I made sure to make it like a point to get to the Stick before they shut it down. And then the following week, we all know the pick of the Stick with Navarro Bowman. So, that was the first one, the one in Seattle when I was in the military, and then after that, I went to the Stick. Took a couple
That's
years, but I
cool.
got there. So, after the military, it gets a little tough. So financially, I just made sure I made that happen that one year. And then ever since then, I go either with my buddy Fernando, or I go by myself. I try to go to one road game or one home game a year. So this year we're gonna go to Minnesota. So I'll be in Minnesota this year for that game. Last year we did Denver, and the year before that I did Chicago and San Francisco back-to-back weeks. So the Colts game where we got rained out, and then we went to Chicago the following week. So we did those two. This year we'll do Minnesota. It's just something me and my buddy do. We both grew up outside of Philadelphia, so that's what we do.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never been to a Niner away game. Been to plenty at Levi's and the Stick, of course. I need to get that. Definitely chalk that one up. Who knows when or where it will happen? But if I do, and if I'm still doing a channel, I'll let you guys know. It's always good. As far as let me ask you this: it's a little segment of the show that I like to call Pizza Time. Because if you ever go on my Instagram, or sometimes I'll post them on my Twitter, I'm always posting pictures of pizzas that I make in the backyard pizza oven. So it's a big hobby of mine. And
You got one of those?
well, yeah, it's a propane fired pizza oven. It's not a wood fired one that's nice and all fancy looking. Kind of looks like a Pizza Hut reach from the hardware store, but does a great job. It has a pizza, so it has a pizza stone in there, but a rotating one. So it's really cool actually, and it can go up to like 1,000 degrees. But for the type of pizza that I cook New York styles, it doesn't need to go to 1,000. Yeah, but usually, in my opinion, nothing goes better with football than pizza. And it's a lot of fun to talk about. And I always like to ask the 49er fans out there, like, do they have a favorite pizza spot to go to, or is there a particular favorite style? Some people like thin crust, deep dish, Chicago style. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up east, so I mean, I'm a New York style pizza guy myself, and it has to be thin and crispy and big enough to fold, right? There's got to be plenty of grease in it.
Yeah.
Usually I'll just do a pepperoni jalapeno, slice or two, and it's hard to disagree with you on that. Pizza and football go together, with wings or whatever. But I'm a big pepperoni and jalapeno guy myself. So when I get that,
so that's another thing I got to do. I still got to go to East Coast, New York, New Jersey, somewhere out there, and
that's where it's at, man. It's
try
pizza.
some real pizza.
Yeah.
I try my best to emulate it, and I've gotten to the point where most of the time when I make pizza, it's better than whatever local spot out there. Even if there's a place that says they make something like New York pizza, sometimes I make better pizza than they do. So it's a lot of fun, but it's a big hobby of mine. So yeah, man, let's get started with the Niner talk, man. Because if you guys haven't followed this guy on Twitter, he's got a huge following on Twitter. Go to the description box of this video. You can click on his Twitter account. Definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you're not into his whole, actually, 49ers Twitter is probably the craziest space. So it might be the craziest space in all of social media if you think about it. Definitely in the sports world, but definitely follow this guy and check him out. And and just going on, I haven't, when I joined Twitter was right before I made this channel. It's been early 2021, and I remember Twitter Spaces were a thing. And every now and then I'd hear the name Javier Vega said this or what. Okay, the rumor I wanted to ask you about was I remember one time somebody mentioned like, oh well, Javier Vega was leaking out some info. So now the 49ers organization is like watching over his Twitter account or something like that. I heard that rumor flying around. I don't know if there was any truth to it, or maybe you might remember what they're referring to.
So I did get it, not in trouble, but the tweet where I have the Lance throwing in practice, the Niner legal team reached out to me via DM, and they reached out to me via email. So I've had that conversation with them before to not share that kind of stuff. When I first started podcasting, I had a lot of conversation about Brandon Ayuk. I had somebody from the team ask me to not mention Brandon Ayuk too much anymore. So I was like all over him as far as being a pick for the Niners. Never anything crazy. But the thing is, like, if you are a content creator, you would be naive to think that the 49ers aren't watching you, right? Because they are. Anyone who watches Steph Sanchez, right? Everyone knows who Steph is. If you are, on Twitter or whatever, she had a conversation with John Lynch, and John Lynch recognized her. How does he
Oh
recognize
boy.
her? You know
Oh
what I mean?
boy.
Like,
Okay.
you recognize her based on her videos that she does. So if you are a content creator, the team knows who you are. They do. And again, if you are a content creator, you are naive to think that they are not. Partially because they want to know what is going on with the team. The team is very much into the they're very much into PR, making sure things are said about the team in the right light, right? Um that is what that's what they do. The team does know who, myself, Jordan Elliott, Jason Aponte, Rob Stats Guerrero, Steph Sanchez. They know who Grant is, right? They know who Jack Hammer, like they know who these people are, and the players know who you are, right? And like I said, I've had Joe Staley on, I've had Adrian Colbert on, I've spoken to Ben Garland, he's been on my show, Mike Person has been on my show. Like these things that some people are like, you don't know anybody. Well, they came on my show, and they lead to other things, right? And if you go back to any of my content, I've done a lot of pre-draft stuff with current players in the NFL. Leon O'Neal was an undrafted free agent for the 49ers. He was on my show. Khalil Shakir, he's a 5th round pick for the Buffalo Bills. He was on my show. Sean Ryan, 3rd round pick for the Green Bay Packers. He was on my show. Cole Strange, who was a 1st round pick for the Patriots. He was on my show. Like this is, when you do content like this, the teams are going to know who you are, right? It's for those who don't like to hear that stuff. I don't know what they're trying to get at with that, but they know who we are and what we do, right? And they some of them appreciate it, some of them don't. It's just part of the game, and you have to be, you got to be positive. Sometimes you're pessimistic, but if you're doing the right thing, the team's gonna leave you alone. They don't care, like or they'll just say, hey, don't do this, or please don't do that. Like I think the biggest two, Brad Graham and Raj, those two are the biggest ones. And I know for a fact they've been contacted by the Niners, right? And it is what it is. And that's, they want you to say certain things and not say certain things. And that's part of the game that it is the NFL. They want positive commentary out there about their team or about their players. That is just part of the game that the league plays. And that's part of the game that, us content creators have to kind of live within. And for those of us like myself and you and Brad, we don't have to hold water for the team. Like if we have a thought process that is negative or contrary to what has been put out by NFL Network or Schefter or Ian Rappaport, we can do so because we're not, I'm not in the building, right? And I don't have to hold water for the team. So like when the George Kittle contract was coming around and how they were dicking him around, I said they were dicking him around and people got mad about it. And then here comes Mike Silver with the story that they were messing with him. Javier, you don't know anything. And then Mike Silver has the conversation about how the first offer was called the Valentine's Day Massacre. What does that mean? That means they screwed with his money initially. That means they shopped him. That means they were just showing him the true side of this business. It is simply a business. And that's one of the first eye-opening deals that, as a content person, like I went from just being a diehard fan to fanboying out and, to realizing, you know what? These teams don't care. It is just a business, and that is all that it should be, and that's how I treat it now, right? So I don't get attached to players. I don't care the decisions they make. I just want to watch it, analyze it, talk about it. That's it, right? So I'm not super tied to, we'll get into it, I'm sure, the quarterback situation. I used to be super dug in on this Jimmy Garoppolo thing and whatever else, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Just talk about it, keep going. So, but yes, if whatever that was, that rumor or whatever, yes, I have been contacted by the Niners a couple of times, and nothing super crazy, nothing bad. They're not like mad about it. They just want to make sure that it's nothing negative about the team out there, right? The Trey Lance video that leaked out, I posted it. It came from a player. And it, it went viral and it looked good for the Niners. It was a positive thing, right? Because all we heard was Trey Lance isn't ready, Trey Lance isn't this, Trey Lance isn't that. And then that video pops up and it's on NFL Network. It was on ESPN. It was on Bleacher Report. And it was a positive thing for Trey Lance and the franchise. So they let it go. It wasn't a big deal.
Got you. So yeah, you mentioned like having certain college hopefuls and NFL draft prospects on the show. That's cool because we're gonna do a mock draft later. And one more thing about tweets, because I saw this pop up about Raheem Mostert recently, and a lot of people are talking about like, oh, like where Raheem Mostert was kind of being petty. He's like, oh, well, Shanahan just ran the ball more in the Super Bowl, and it's like a picture of like a wide open hole, and I think it was Mostert with the ball in the picture, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just now you see all the tweets coming out, like everybody's retweeting, like, oh well,
yeah,
it's Shanahan's fault. He didn't call any run plays. But another rumor I heard tied to you was, I don't know what player you may have talked to or spoke that told you about this, but I think you were telling me an offensive lineman told you. I think you were telling everybody that an offensive lineman told you that Kyle called some run plays at points in time and Jimmy opted out of them or something. Or is that it? Any truth to that?
So, yeah, I mean, it's true. And you can hear Jimmy can it at the line. He cans it because he sees it's a loaded box. Joe Staley was on my show after the 2019 Super Bowl. Ben Garland was on my show after the 2019 Super Bowl. And I've spoken to Weston Richburg, Mike Person. All four of those guys were on the 49ers offensive line in the 2019 Super Bowl. They confirmed that for me. They've said it on my show. Yes, the Niners were going to run the ball, but when you have a 9-man box, you're not going to run into a 9-man box. And the call was correct to throw the ball, because if you go back and watch those cans that Jimmy did, Jimmy made the right decision to can out of those runs because he got one-on-one coverage with Terrell Suggs and George Kittle twice. He beat Terrell Suggs twice. The ball was batted at the line. It is what it is. It has nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan not running the ball enough, because he was calling run plays. Jimmy made the right decision to can those calls. And if you go back and watch the game, you'll hear it. Can. Everyone knows how that works, right? If you're a big 49er fan, you should know these things. And watching the game, and you can hear Jimmy say it, and then they go to a pass play, and Kittle is wide open twice.
So was this on 2 plays, or was about what, 3
it's on
plays?
3 plays. There's 3 plays, and then the other one was they ran 2. The other one, if I'm not mistaken, just watching the tape, I think they both wide receivers ran a swirl route, and that was the one where Kendrick Bourne was above his head, and Jimmy missed the throw. But really, I think KB was supposed to run a 7, and he didn't. So they just ran the wrong route. Like that was like. That's not on Kyle. It's just on player execution, and being in the moment of, it's nut cutting time. You know what I mean? It's time to get first downs and close this game out, and they just didn't. They just didn't do it. They didn't execute correctly. So the Chiefs dared to. Anyone who wants to go back and watch it, the Chiefs dared the Niners to pass the ball. They weren't scared of Jimmy Garoppolo, and no one's ever scared of Jimmy Garoppolo. And I'm not trying to take digs at him, but in that Super Bowl, you can tell once they figured it out. Okay, let's load the box, right? And I see Dynamite Dave here. Kyle never did wide receiver sweeps either. I mean, you can't run it every time. They ran it twice. The second time was a throwback to Jimmy Garoppolo, and they kind of ate that up, and it didn't work. So it just, the Niners run game was not that successful in the Super Bowl either when they were running the ball. Like they had 3 big runs, one for 31. They had 2 of them for 31 and one for like 17. Everything else other than that was under 4 or 5 yards. So they weren't like chipping away. It's just those 3 big chunk plays makes the numbers look much better than what they were. And that's just when you really dig into the numbers, you turn on the tape, you watch watch the game over, watch it without, your Niner glasses on, your biases, and you really see it. You're like, oh, okay. And even guys who've done this stuff for a lot longer than I have, Matt Mayoko, Matt Barrows, are like, yeah, there's only 3 or 4 plays that Kyle could have maybe ran the ball, but it was right for Jimmy to make the switch to a pass play. It is what it is. It's just, at the end of the day, the Super Bowl's a long time ago. Get over it,
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I am to the point where I haven't sat and watched it. You said when you go back and rewatch the game. So I haven't done that yet because I was pretty mad at one point.
I watched it like 40 plus times already.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay.
That's like because I was doing so much content, I was trying to understand what was happening and what was going on. And then, Like I said, when I had Joe on, I asked him about it. When I had Person on, I asked him about it. When I had Garland on, I asked him about it. Like these things were just, they were just necessary questions for me to ask.
I got you. And let's talk about the offensive line changes that we have currently, because free agency kind of dictates what we do in the draft and what we're just going to do in general. So, I remember Grant Coe made a recent video where he was talking about the 49ers right tackle philosophy, and I just was hearing it, and I always thought to myself, like, it just sounds like they want the right tackle. It's like they're perfectly fine if the right tackle's a lesser player, as long as he fits the scheme of the Niners run with those outside zones. So I just always thought it was weird that, like, why, if you have a beast like Trent Williams on the other side, why don't you try to replicate it on the opposite side? That was just my question. What do you think about the right tackle philosophy?
I mean, it's not like I like Grant, I really do, and he makes you think, right? I do like Grant, but at the end of the day, not every player in the 49ers is gonna be perfect, right? Not every player is going to be an all-pro or a pro bowler, right? You have to have these ancillary pieces around you to make the whole thing work, right? Was Mike McGlinchey a miss or a bust? No. He was a serviceable right tackle starter with deficiencies, but he was also part of a Super Bowl appearance. He was also part of those other 2 NFC Championship games they went to. So he wasn't this terrible right tackle. He just wasn't good enough in pass protection, right? So what do the Niners like to do? They like to run the outside zone to the right side. Okay, cool. So, if McGlinchey misses 2 or 3 blocks out of 65, 70 offensive plays, he's doing his job, This McKivitz thing, I don't know. I don't really see what it is, but at the same time, I didn't see it with Aaron Banks, and Aaron Banks proved me wrong. Right? You got at this point, I'm trusting Kyle enough to scheme around the deficiencies in his players, right? We saw it with Tom Compton, right? We all were like, oh shit, McGlinchey's out, Tom Compton's in. Did the Niners miss a beat in the run game?
It was the same thing, pretty much.
Exactly. So, Kyle's able to scheme and hide deficiencies in his players. He's done it since he's been here. And again, not to dig on Jimmy Garoppolo, you hide his deficiencies. Nick Mullins, you hide his deficiencies. Even with Lance and Purdy, you're trying to hide deficiencies to maximize what you can out of the offense, and that applies to all his positions, right? You got Marquise. He had Marquise Goodwin almost 1,000 yards. Marquise Goodwin could never sniff 1,000 yards anywhere else, right? Kendrick Bourne, undrafted free agent, gets a bag from the Patriots, partially because of what Kyle was able to do with him on 3rd down and in the red zone, right? Like those things were, it's just the philosophy of the Niners. They're top heavy with their salaries, and I shouldn't even say top heavy. They're fiscally responsible with their bigger deals, and they have a core of cheaper players that are, that are within the $4 to $5 to $6 million range that are contributors and they're starters and they make a lot of sense. So their roster building philosophy works. Yes, would you love to have an all-pro right tackle? But tell me the team that has 2 all-pro left tackles and right tackles.
Yeah, they're very far in between. I totally agree. Yeah.
Right? The closest thing is probably Philadelphia.
Maybe the Saints at one point?
Yeah, the Saints.
Philadelphia, the Saints, yeah.
It's
those
very
are the 2
rare.
teams I can think of. Yeah.
Right? It's very rare. It's the same conversation with the quarterbacks. Oh, well, why didn't Kyle Shanahan have a better backup? There's hardly 32 starters in the NFL, and you expect the 49ers to have 3 starting caliber quarterbacks on one roster? Like, what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? Like
the closest the Niners did, though. Remember when they had Bodo, Steve Young, and Montana. That was the one time that they had
free agency existed, right?
Yeah,
like that's the 93 season. Like that's just is what it is. So I don't, you can't have all pros everywhere, but the Niners have all pros where it matters. You got an all pro left tackle, you got an all pro running back, you got an all pro defensive end, linebacker, and however you feel about who he was technically an all pro, and then and Kittle, tight end. You have 5 or 6 guys that are your core that are very, very strong, and that's all that any team needs, right? You go back into every Super Bowl team, you're gonna see teams with 4 to 5, maybe 6 really, really, really talented players, and everything else just slides in and fits like a puzzle. You have to maneuver between your salary cap, your draft capital, right? You have your quality veterans, and then you have your ancillary undrafted guys that can come in and contribute, right? You got your second string guys who can come in, plug and play if you need them, right? But no team is going to have 22 all pros on it, right? That is not a realistic thing. And sometimes I think that gets lost with the fan base. And I'm just specifically speaking on Twitter. And that's a very small portion of the fan base. But when you really sit back and think about it, no team is perfect, right? It's about, to me, from from my experience and who I've spoken to, it's about the culture. It's about the locker room. It's about, this team camaraderie thing. If you can make that stuff work and you have the talent to go with it, it's going to happen. And this is what we've seen with the 49ers. They got really good players. They have a tight knit group. They got a good head coach, and they're just missing one or two. It really is one or two plays here or there that have cost them potentially 2 Super Bowls, right? Because they could have beaten the Rams last year or the 21 season, right? Had, let's just say Jimmy hits Kittle for that big one early in the game. He misses him, right? That changes how the play calls are going the rest of the game, right? Let's just say Brunskill does not miss that block on Aaron Donald, right? Or let's just say that third down run where Trent Williams is coming across the formation. Make me say that doesn't work. Like those things, it happens, right? And the same thing with the Super Bowl. Should Jimmy have canned out of those run plays in the pass plays and stuck with the run? Who knows, right? It's very small pieces here and there that have kept them from the Super Bowl. I think they're very, very close. But it's going back to it's a tangent I just went on, but to your original question, the right tackle thing, I think they should draft somebody. I think
Me too.
McKivitz has shown that he is serviceable, but in spurts, right? He's only played 1 or 2 games here or there, right? You can only go so far with backup talent players, and that's kind of part of why I went on that tangent, because if you look at the Niners' history with their backup players, 2 or 3, 4 games tops. After that, you want to make sure your starters are back.
Very true. And that's usually the case with the backup quarterback, too. We're going to be talking about the quarterback in a minute. I just want to ask you this one question about the offensive line really quick. It's kind of going to tie into what we're talking about in terms of drafting a right tackle. And because we picked up Jose Feliciano, John Feliciano, not the singer. We picked up John Feliciano, and some people are saying, "Oh, well, we didn't pick him up for him to ride the pine." And he started games in the past, and and people were like, "Oh, maybe we should move him to guard and have Burford play right tackle." What do you think about that idea?
I think it's harder than people think it is, right? Like this is something I've had to learn, right, over the last 5-6 years. Is that it's not mad, it's not a plug and play thing, right? There's a whole level of footwork that goes into going from guard to right tackle, right? And if we remember correctly, Burford was swapping reps with Brunskill this last year at right guard, right? 1 series in, 1 series out, 1 series in, 1 series out, right? So is he ready for the full workload of being a right tackle, right? Do you bring in Feliciano to sit next to Brendel, right? Because Feliciano has center experience too. Could he help there? Sure. But I don't know that you're going to put Burford at right tackle. So then what do? Now you have a competition with Burford, Jalen Moore, and McKivitz for right tackle. There's only so many reps that can go around in the offseason, right? So I think the Feliciano thing really is for him to sit on the bench, to be honest with you. I think unless it's going to be a competition between him and Burford, which is kind of where I think they're going to go. And I think they're going to draft the right tackle in the 3rd round. It's just, it is, it is what it is there.
I got you. Got some late shout outs that I got to do. First one right here pops up for me is Mariah from the 49 Faithful Lead podcast. She's holding it down with TL on our YouTube channel. Definitely check them out. They got a lot of cool giveaways, and it's always a great conversation. We got John Lynch. What's up? I saw you earlier. I'll read your comment in a minute. We got Clown Man here. What's up, Clown Man? Good to see you, bro. We got Brazil. Brazil's in the house. We got Panama Queen. What's up, Panama Queen? Good to see you. And yeah, it's been interesting to see what they do with the offensive line. I think John Lynch mentioned something about in terms of the way we acquire prayers. He says, "You guys must have forgotten we traded to land Fred Dean, Steve Young. These are the trades that made us land Staley, Yapati, Navarro Bowman." I guess he's trying to. I don't know if you made a reference about trading people or something like that, but he was.
No, I didn't make a reference to trade. Like you traded for Fred Dean and Steve Young. That's before the salary cap. Like right now, like you have to exist in a salary cap. Fred Dean and Steve Young were way before the salary cap existed. And the Niners got Steve Young for basically nothing. So there's that too. As far as Staley, Upati, Navarro Bowman go, yeah, you drafted Staley early in the 1st round. Navarro Bowman was a 3rd rounder and Upati was also a first-round pick that they didn't have to do anything for. It's just because they stunk the years prior. That's why they had early draft round to pick those guys, and that's part of it. So,
yeah, that's true. So let me see what else we're going to cover really quick before. Yeah, let's talk about the quarterbacks because that's always the hot spicy
John
topic.
clarified it. My bad, John. All good.
Oh, what did he say? He said it was about someone said. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just caught that. I thought that was for us. My bad.
My bad, John. I was like,
I was tripping. Yeah, it's all good. Hey, it was good to bring up those facts. So you brought up some stuff that I forgot about. So that was cool.
I kind of want to go back to this Brazil guy. But
go ahead.
The coach keeps overthinking. He never learns
right here,
mistakes. JT O'Sullivan didn't expose anything. For those who understand the schematics of why the Niners quarterbacks got injured, the GT counter bash on Trey Lance. I don't know that you can find a play where Lamar Jackson runs that and there's a double team block on the right side. I don't think it exists. I have yet to see it. The play where Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, the pass concept in a straight drop back pass, it was the Niners pass drop back pass game is not sophisticated, partially because of the quarterback play. But if you go back to Atlanta, when Kyle Shanahan had Matt Ryan, who was a much better passer than Garoppolo, just their straight drop back pass game was far more sophisticated because he's a better drop back passer. The Niners can't run play action 99% of the time, so you have to sometimes come out of your straight drop back passing. The one with Purdy, the Niners have ran that play a million times this past season. He just so happened to get hurt, and Debo didn't sell it the way he was supposed to sell it, either on the fake end around or the orbit motion, whatever they call it. So there's that, right? So it's not so much that Kyle doesn't learn from his mistakes. It's different mistakes. If you want to be serious about it, those are all three different types of plays with three different types of players. When it comes to the losses, the Super Bowl, we just went over this. The Niners were going to run the ball, and Jimmy Garoppolo audibled out of those plays as per his left tackle Joe Staley, as per his center Ben Garland, as per his right guard Mike Person. Like, those things happened, and it's not so much Kyle Shanahan, it's so much the players and the execution of the play. Like, you can only call the play, and if your players don't execute it, or if something goes wrong, that's not on the coach, right? There's the batted ball. If you go back and watch as well, Laken Tomlinson literally puts Chris Jones' arms in the air. If you go back and watch that one of those tip balls, Laken is underneath Chris, and he raises Chris's arms up to causes a bat down. Like, this is where watching the tape is very, very fun, very, very useful, and it does help you understand the game a little bit better. So, yes, is Kyle perfect? Absolutely not, because I think Kyle is a little too involved with picking the groceries sometimes, right? But other than that, I think Kyle does an excellent job as far as his offense goes. Like, the fact that Picks 262 can come in and operate and be functional is wild to me. The fact that Nick Mullins can be serviceable is crazy to me. So, then Dynamite Day. So how did Lance get injured? If you go back and watch that play, Trent Williams missed his block.
I saw that too. I saw that recently. Block. I noticed that recently when he missed a block too. I didn't notice it the 30 other times I saw the play.
And it's a running play. Like, and this is the other thing. The argument is like, we want a mobile quarterback. But don't run him. It's gonna happen. Guys get hurt. It's football. Like, Trent Williams misses a block. That's not on Kyle.
I was at that game. Trust me, I felt like I was at a funeral after that play happened, because if you had heard me on Spaces and how excited we were about having Lance be named as a starter and see him in week 1, like there was a huge buildup that led, so it was a huge letdown for me. And thank God we found a way to pick things up in the season. Hey, we didn't win it all, but we got further than I expected. Let me see what's up to Rick Diaz. He's here. Says, where was the quarterback? We don't know who's going to start, but we got 2. Yeah, we don't know who's going to be the starting quarterback. I was going to ask about that later, where I will in just a minute. Yeah, man. So who else is here? Randy Daytona's here. Said, what's up, Bastion Hobb? Yeah, I mean, it's like Purdy looked really great. He looked really, really nice when he stepped in. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's not my ideal quarterback, so I like the guy that, more like a Josh Allen type or Patrick Mahomes type, but that's everybody's ideal quarterback, right? But, other than that, Purdy looked great when he stepped in. I mean, and it sucked that he got hurt. We didn't get to see what he could do in the biggest game of his life, but it is what it is. But unfortunately, he got hurt, and it doesn't look some people think he might be ready by week 1. Some people think, Lance is probably going to be playing at least to like week 4 or 5. What's your take on this whole Purdy injury and who you think's going to emerge as a starter, perhaps?
I think this is Purdy's team, and whether I like it or not, I think this is the direction the team is going to go. I think the team is telling us via their media outlets that this is the direction that they're going to go. Something that I said when they first drafted Trey, I was like, you have to remove Garoppolo from the situation so this kid can get the reps, because you're going to go through growing pains whether you like it or not, because the kid only had 385 passes between college and his first, NFL start. Like that's not enough reps, right? The kid's going to need reps, but you have to manage a Super Bowl ready roster. When you have to manage a Super Bowl ready roster with a developing talent, right? Like, the idea with with Trey, and even Trey said it, Trey said it himself. He was comfortable with Kyle running him because he even said that was probably the best way for him to develop. Like, he said that because for those who were at the camp or who have read the reports, Trey Lance has an accuracy issue. It's just he's not sped up enough, for this to be working out for him as far as a passer goes. That was one of his weaknesses in the last 2 off seasons, right? So the way the Niners were running their offense, which was very efficient when they were running him before he got injured, I think they put up like 157 yards in 2 drives. Remember that? Like, people forget that. It was fine when it was working, and the minute he gets hurt, it's a problem. But that's what happens when you're going to use a mobile quarterback, which is something that the Niners wanted. They wanted the guy to have the ability to extend plays and or use him as an 11-on-11 type of player. So yeah, they're going to run him like a Lamar or Justin Fields. But what we realized is Lance is neither one of those guys. Lance is not faster than those guys. Lance may have a better 40 time than them, but he lacks the confidence as a runner. He's not comfortable in that situation yet. Like, it's a hard conversation for some people to have, but it is the truth. Like, when you watch him run when you watch him run, do you think he looks comfortable?
For the most part, no.
Exactly. So what is his best attribute right now? Running the ball. And that's what Kyle was telling us. Kyle will tell you what he thinks of his players based on his play calls, right? Jimmy Garoppolo comes back in that game. He lets him throw it around. He wasn't letting Trey throw the ball around against Seattle. He wasn't. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt. 0 blitz. Brock Purdy throwing the ball. He's telling you what he thinks of his players and with his play calls. He's allowing Purdy to throw the ball. He allowed Jimmy Garoppolo to throw the ball. He didn't let Trey throw the ball very much when he was on the field. Why is that? Because he didn't show the accuracy needed to be a competent passer at this point in his career. Can he get there? Maybe, but we won't know unless he gets the reps. But Kyle is telling you, when you sit down and watch these games, he will tell you what he thinks of his quarterback. Kyle Shanahan took the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands in the NFC title game. Kyle Shanahan took the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands in the NFC divisional game against the Vikings. Kyle will take the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands before half. Remember that? We go into half happy to be up 3 points, as long as Jimmy didn't make a mistake. Right? Like, Kyle will tell you what he thinks of his players based on what he's calling for plays. Brock Purdy was allowed to sling that ball before half. Was he not?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and he's telling you, and that's part of why I think Purdy is the guy going forward. Do I think Purdy is a long-term answer? No, I don't. I really don't, because this is part of why I kind of fell out of love with Brock Purdy at Iowa State. I liked him coming into the 21 draft because I thought he was going to come out because he had a really good year prior. And then once all his talent went away in Iowa State, he fell off a cliff.
I remember that.
So
he was better his junior year. I remember that.
Exactly. So if let's just say the Niners for some reason aren't able to maintain this level of talent around him, how good can he be? Right? So is he a product of the offense, or is the offense a product of him? In this case, I think he's a product of the offense and the skill players around him. I don't think he would operate this well playing for Chicago or playing for Indianapolis, right? Like, there's, not many teams have a Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, a Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, and Trent Williams on your team, right? So the fact that he has this much talent around him makes me question what he's going to look like going forward. That's why I have a little bit of hope left for Trey Lance, But also at the same time, if the Niners are able to go get a veteran, and I know people are going to hate this, go ahead and go get Kirk if he's a free agent next year. I do not care. You want to go trade for Aaron Rodgers? Go right ahead. You want to call Tom Brady? Go for it. If another veteran quarterback is available that makes sense for this team, go do it, because this team is ready to win now. And they don't need to be sitting here waiting and developing a younger player, or just counting on Brock Purdy to be the guy in the future, because you can tell, because we've seen it before in college. He had a hard time once his talent went away, which most quarterbacks would. Like, the only person I know that can make it happen with nobody is Tom. Tom did it with nobody for years in New England, except for Gronk and Randy Moss. Outside of that, cool, he had a really good slot receiver, Wes Welker and Danny Amendola, but most of the time his wide receivers were ass cheeks. He had a good run game, offensive line was strong, and the defense was good, right? But pass catchers, they weren't there. He had Brandon Cooks the 1 year, 2 years, whatever it was. Like, that's really it. He took, Kyle's telling you what he thinks of his players based on his play calls, and people hate to hear that, but it is what it is. Like, Brock was able to sling the rock before half, going into half. Brock was able to sling the rock on third down, even going for it on fourth down. He wasn't letting Jimmy do that, and he took the ball out of Trey's hand. And that's just based off what he sees in practice. And, at this point, I got to believe him.
All right, I was gonna lead up to the question asking if you thought Trey was gonna get traded or not. Mark Cisneros is here. What's up, dude? Welcome to the channel. He says, "What's up, fellas? Javi, if Purdy doesn't get hurt in the title game, and it was a shootout like the Las Vegas game, but the D couldn't get a stop when it mattered, is Lance?" And then he says, "Is Lance still a 49er right now, or do you think he's gonna get traded?"
I think if Brock doesn't get hurt, I still think Lance is still a 49er. I think because of the cap hit that he would incur, the only way you trade Lance is if you get a day 2 pick. Like, you have to be able to get a day 2 pick for him. I don't know. I haven't spoken to anybody because like I said, I stopped doing content a while ago. But just reading the tea leaves, I don't think the Niners can get a 4th round pick for the guy right now. Right? What is on tape that tells you that this guy's worth a 1st or 2nd round pick or 3rd round pick? Like, there's nothing there. Cool, you have the Texans game. Outside of that, there's not much for teams to go off of, right? And if the Niners are getting ready to get rid of him, the teams aren't going to be lining up. Oh, well, Kyle Shanahan couldn't make it work, and it's and it's crazy. And that question right there, I know Kyle ain't no genius, but he don't develop a quarterback ever. I want to know which quarterback he was supposed to develop. He was a QC, he was an OC, he was a wide receiver coach. Those guys don't develop quarterbacks. This is his first head coaching job. Jimmy Garoppolo, did he get better under Kyle Shanahan? Yes. Did Nick Mullins play pretty good under Kyle Shanahan? Yes. Has Brock Purdy looked pretty good under him? Yes. The job for the head coach is to just be the head coach. Your quarterback coach is part of your development. What you do on the outside of the field, in the offseason, what's going to develop you as a quarterback, right? Brian Daboll got all the credit for Josh Allen. Brian Daboll leaves, and Josh Allen had he reverted to all the turnovers, right? So with Kyle, the ability, you have to have the time and the ability to develop a quarterback. He hasn't been in a place long enough, except for San Francisco, to do so. So we don't know that we can or cannot. And for Kenny, day 2, we traded 3 first-round picks for him. That's in the past. It's a sunk cost. It doesn't matter that we traded 3 first-round picks 3 years ago, because the Niners aren't counting it that way, because their first-round picks are back in 2024 and 2025. They were crazy to trade 3 first-round picks. I agree, but they were also smart to take a swing. They needed to take a swing. They were over this Jimmy Garoppolo exercise. They needed to take a big swing. They had to.
I was shocked when it happened too. When I got the news that they took that swing, I was like, "Whoa, look at this!" And now that's part of what led to the whole excitement. So, in my opinion, I'm a huge Trey Lance supporter, and people have heard me talk about him for God knows how many times in the show. But reality is this: Purdy stepped in and looked really, really good. And my take on it is, right now, Purdy looks like he might not be ready till week 3 or week 4. Trey has to prove he is who he is. Other than that, if he just flops, it's definitely going to be Purdy's job, but we'll see. So, said, I'll go ahead.
At the end of the day, if Trey is a flop, then then the Niners just move on. Like, if Trey's a flop and Purdy's the guy, then they kind of rectified it. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And so Dynamite Dave, he said, I'm using Mullins. Mullins was a safety on the 49ers scout team. and he put up Mahomes-like numbers because of Kyle Shanahan's offense. We can go back to the graphic. Like, my point here is Kyle Shanahan has been able to maximize every quarterback he's had on his team, right? And then the next one, Kyle should be held accountable. What do you want to do? Fire him? Like, these are the questions that come up. I see this on Twitter all the time. Held accountable. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to fire him, find a new coach?
I mean, it's tough, man. When you get really, really close, similar to what we did in the Harbaugh era, and you know that we didn't seal the deal. I'm not sure if you're frozen, Javier. If you are, I may have to bring you back on. I think we lost him for a second. It's all good. Let's I'll hit him up I'll message him and let him know. I think he froze. Did he freeze? Is he back?
I'm here.
Oh, there he is. There he is. You're back. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I was gonna message you on Twitter. Hey, come back, bro. It's all good. Yeah. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I totally forgot because it froze up.
Yeah, but the thing, this isn't the teams don't value these draft picks the way they used to, right? Like the old saying was, I wouldn't trade for Jesus. I wouldn't trade a first round pick for Jesus. Teams don't care because they want to win now, and they rather have assets that are proven, right? So cool, you traded 3 first round picks for Trey Lance. Has it hurt them? No. Was it smart to do so? We don't know yet, but if they missed, then no, it wasn't smart to do so. But if you can recoup just a 3rd or 4th round pick for Trey Lance 3 years later, it is what it is. It's a sunk cost. It's like, you're not going to get the same return on investment on something like this for an aging player who hasn't had any experience, who's been injured. And yeah, it hasn't hurt us. The Niners have made 2 NFC title games since trading up to 3. They've had the number 1 defense and the top 5 defense back-to-back years. They've been to back-to-back NFC title games. I'm trying to understand where it hurt the Niners by trading up for Trey Lance. And they somehow found a quarterback in Brock Purdy in the 7th round. Where has it hurt the team?
I see where you're coming from this, and I just see where the angry fan thing comes to. I try to, I kind of see it in the middle, but both of you guys are making great points.
It's just, my thing is, like, there's a lot of angry fans out there who are like, yeah, we're going to hold him accountable. Okay, so are you going to fire him, or are you going to, what's the other option?
Maybe they jump him. I don't know. Who knows, man? It's hard. It's hard to find a good coach in the NFL, though. A lot of people say NFL is a coach's league rather than a players' league. You think of a players' league like the NBA, for example.
It's a coaches and quarterback league right now. Either you have a coach and a quarterback, the Chiefs, or you have a coach and no quarterback, the Niners, and you can make things happen. Or you have a coach and a quarterback like the Eagles or the Bengals, right? Like there's like 6 or 7 really good quarterbacks in the NFL. The rest are just kind of just hanging around, and it's hard to find one. And then with the coaches, you have the Niners. The Niners have a top 5 coach, plain and simple. Like that, it is what it is. He's a top 5 coach. And
I'd say
if the Niners fired him today, he would be hired in 20 seconds. Every team in the league would, not every team, but probably 27 teams would line up right now and hire him. Like, that is who he is.
I got you, man. So let's do this. It's a heated topic. The 49ers are never boring in the offseason. I would say there's nothing to talk about, but there's always something to talk about with these Niners in the offseason, especially these past few years. It's been nuts. We're going to do our mock draft. We're going to knock it out. So this time around, actually, I've done the PFF mock draft on my site. I've done the mock draft database on my site. So I haven't done the profootballnetwork.com on my site. I've used it early about a few weeks ago, a month ago, actually, maybe. But we're going to use this one because this is the one Javier likes the best. He told me that he thinks their draft board's a bit more similar to the other draft boards out there. So that's good to hear. Jay Wong, welcome to the channel. I've seen you before, but he says, Jay Wang, I agree. He's a top 5-7 coach. I'd say top 5, man. Hey, not every, that's how it is what it is when you're a 49er fan. If you're not winning the Super Bowl for a few years, they're going to say, hey, they may want something else, or who knows, man.
And Bash, like, the idea here, like, if he can't win a ring, where's he going to win a ring at? Like, there's been 57 Super Bowls. Only 35 coaches have won a Super Bowl. You do the math. In 57 seasons, only 35 coaches have won a Super Bowl. Before Andy Reid won a Super Bowl, was he not a great coach? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right,
I
then.
thought it was a good coach because he always went to the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did went to the Niners at one point and he was available. I'll be like, oh, cool, great. We got Andy Reid.
Yeah. When Andy Reid was available, I was like, fire Harbaugh and bring me Andy Reid. That's who I wanted. And they didn't do it.
Doesn't surprise me that he won 2 Super Bowls and he won those 2, but people will pretty much forget that he lost one if you think about it, or lost 2 other ones actually.
Yeah.
All right, Ted. What up, Ted Talks Ball? He says top 5 for sure. And Randy said that's not what Niner fans want to hear. I know.
They don't want to hear anything.
It's always going to be different, man.
I used to be like that, but doing the content thing and Twitter will really mess with your perspective. That's for sure.
The world of Twitter is just a whole different animal, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's just out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. We're going to jump into the mock draft. Going, you probably know. Some people watch like, oh wow, I learned about this prospect because I watched you, and I'm like, look, I'm no expert. A lot of times what I do is reverse scouting. I'll do these mock drafts, and I see names that pop up, and then once I see that name pop up, I'll literally open another browser tab and watch his highlights. And if I like his highlights, cool. If I don't like his highlights, next. That's what I do. I mean, if you want to call it a weak way of scouting or whatever, it is what it is, man. But it's an armchair version of scouting.
Man. That's how I used to do it. So
yeah, oh, that's how you used to do it too. Okay, that's cool.
And then I got I got to connect with the college game. He sends me all the tape, so I got.
No, that's cool.
College tape.
I'm trying to get that. Hang on, I'm gonna try to bring that feedback up. Yeah, I clicked out of it for some reason. I was trying to do something. Give me a second.
And just the guys in chat. It's all love, bro. I'm not like angry.
Man, they a lot of them got respect for you if they know who you are, and
it is what it is. It's football. At the end of the day, we got to have fun with this.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. Tons of fun. I don't know if you can see. I have it full screen. I can make it a bigger screen, but you can read what you see there.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool.
All right, so for a reason today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, hey, I wear these for a reason too, buddy. So I got the Niners selected. It says let's draft. We're gonna go right now. I have it on the fast speed to make things easier, and let's do this. So the mock draft has already started. Yep, 99. So no, we're not gonna just do any trades. We're just gonna go as is, if that's cool with you.
So, hey, I'm gonna answer this question here for Dave.
Oh, go ahead.
I work about 14 to 15 hours a day right now, so the podcast isn't in the priority, unfortunately. Do I miss it? Yes. It's just I work literally from 8 in the morning till anywhere between 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm in the car business, so when you go buy a car, I'm the guy who's doing your paperwork, signing you up, doing those things like that. So
finance manager.
I'm there late. Yeah, I'm in finance. So it's just long hours. So that's part of it. At the end of the day, family comes first, and the podcasting stuff is cool. I never was in it for the money. I was more in it for meeting players and getting to meet some people in the league, stuff like that. So it just never had the time. I just stopped having the time for it. Like I said, do I miss it? Do I want to do it every once in a while? So like stuff like this, absolutely. But I would like to bring it back. Maybe down the road when I have a little more time.
And I'm sure you look forward to signing up a bunch of laydowns when you're a finance manager.
Absolutely.
You're probably like, hey, how did he know that? Yeah, you know what's up.
Yeah, you want these products? Take this. There you go.
It's for people who work in the car business.
Yeah,
we got our own little lingo going and stuff like that. So we got a trade offer. What I was saying was we're just gonna do it straight up with no trades.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just straight up picks. Okay, cool.
You're gonna have to close that ad at the bottom, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to close this stupid ad.
And then click here to close.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm gonna reject the trade. Just gonna reject all the trades. And here we go. So we're at pick 99. And do you see the player names, or do you need me to zoom in on it, or do you want me to look up a position group?
I'm gonna make my screen bigger on my side.
Okay, cool. So
I'm going to take here. Or you want me to tell you who I would take here?
Yeah, basically you make the pick.
So I'm going with Iowa tight end Sam Laporta. Like the guy Laporta's there. I would take Laporta. Partially because the Niners have been looking for another tight end for the last 3 seasons. We've seen it, right? They had Caden Smith here for a while. They traded him to New York. They should have kept him, in my personal opinion. Charlie Warner hasn't really developed or shown anything. And Ross Dwelly is hit and miss. So like you can't have Kittle doing everything. And that's part of why we run into issues with Tyler Kroft, and you got a miss block here or a miss block there. So it would be ideal to get somebody who's going to give George a breather. Laporta looks like a guy that could do that. There's another guy from Old Dominion, Kuntz. He's pretty solid, pretty fast. Yeah. And there's a kid from Florida, Miami, His name escapes me right now. So this tight end class is strong. Do I think the Niners really take a tight end at 99? At 99, no, I don't. But for this just exercise, I would take him if he's there at 99.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think twice. I'd call right away. Let's go.
I love the pick because when you watch him, he played at Iowa and a few plays. He had some plays where nobody could tackle him, and it's like, damn, that reminds me of Kittle, man. I hate to make the comparison, but it's a Kittle-esque type move if you watch it. So we're gonna go back to the draft, and basically you're gonna make these picks as if you're making the picks for the team, and not what Kyle or what John would do or anything like that. We're at pick 101. If you want me to look up any position groups, I can, because I'm ready to go.
Go ahead. I would take right here Tyler Steen. He's Alabama's offensive tackle. He's somebody who's not being talked about enough. Good size.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I lost you for a second. He might be back, so I'll just wait for little Javier to come back. Somebody in the chat said that was Jay Wang 92 said Sam Laporta was still around. Yeah, we took him, man. Who knows if he'll be available when we really pick at that point in time in the draft? But it'll be nice. Ted Talks Ball says Iowa tight end just like Kittle. Yeah, he reminds me of Kittle so much, more so than T.J. Hawkinson did coming out of Iowa. If you remember that. See what else says. Yeah, man, there's a lot of good players in this draft. I mean, like my dream world scenario, is that we trade up and get one of the elite right tackle prospects out there. DeJuan Jones from Iowa State basically jumps out of my mind. That'd be a great player to have. That'd be sick if we got him, but I don't think we're going to do that. I think Javier left. He's going to come right back. And once we get back, we'll continue the mock draft. Just want to see what's up and see if I'm missing any Brazil said earlier, I think this is about Shanahan. He said, if he can't win a ring, where's he going to go win? He puts like a laughing face. So Dynamite Dave said, Javi, I love your work. Nothing but respect, man, even though you don't know me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's cool to hear, man. Yeah, we're just chilling here, waiting for Javi to come back on the mock draft. See if he had messaged me. He's trying to get back on the stream or not. I think he still has the link. So once he comes back on, we'll basically do the rest of this mock draft. Jay Wang 92 says, is the Miami tight end Javi was talking about probably there in the city? Yeah, when I was doing my mock drafts, I saw him pop up. I just forget the guy's name though. He was like one of the fourth or fifth better prospects I was thinking of in terms of getting a tight end. Oh, okay, Javi. I just got a text from Javier. Looks like we're just gonna have to kill this. Got it. So apparently they got a thunderstorm in Houston out where he lives. And he said it killed his Wi-Fi connection, so doesn't look like he's going to be able to come back on. We've been on here for an hour and 7 minutes, so I do appreciate a lot of people who did hop on, though. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's coming back. I'm just going to text him back. I say, okay. Yeah, it sucks, a lot of crazy weather situations going on. Where I live over here in Northern California, in the 916 area code, we've gotten rain like crazy ever since December. And this past week, it actually calmed down, but sounds like Houston's weather is going pretty bad. Okay, looks like he'll come back on. Okay, cool. He just messaged me. So, yeah, Javier is going to come back on here. So we're going to go ahead and continue the rest of the mock draft once he comes back on. Kenny says there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks taken in the first round, which is actually going to help us get some good players in third. Yeah, I was thinking about that, too, in the draft. I wasn't really thinking necessarily about quarterbacks. I was just thinking about certain positions. Like, I hope this draft has a lot of heavy talent in certain positions that we may not need, but other teams need, and therefore those teams get players at those positions, and then we because of it, we are fortunate, and certain players drop and fall to where we are, and they land in our laps. And it's always cool when you get a certain pick like that. Hopefully I'm not having that big expectations in terms of this year's draft. But then again, we have shown well over the years that, it may not be a high pick, that we'll have success in the draft at picking in those type of rounds, 4th round, 5th round. And so it looks like Javier's hopping right back in. What's up, bro? Let's
sorry about that. We got thunderstorms.
Oh, it's all good, man. So I thought you weren't going to come back at all. I was going to close it out, but they said it. So I got your other text, and I was like, okay, cool. He's back. And I was talking about the bad weather and all that, because over here in Northern California where I live, we had from December till now, we were just getting rain like almost like every other day. So yeah, it's been a weird weather year, that's for sure.
So shout out to JJ Wang. Will Mallory was the name. Absolutely.
Will Mallory from Miami. There you go. He got the tag. I knew there was a W in there, and that was it, man. I had to see the names. They were lots of. Laura says, "Great that Javier can come back despite the bad weather." Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and finish up this mock draft and get back to where we started. Just trying to.
Yeah. So you took Steen, right? So Steen is a guy that if anyone watched the Senior Bowl, he had some really good reps against some really good pass rushers. So could he be a guy that can come in and switch from left tackle, which is what he played in at Bama, did a little bit of right. So have him come over and maybe compete with McKivitz, or it could be a guy that you just keep developing, right? So I'm big on Steen. Now listen, I know this is not gonna be a popular take, but I'm not a humongous Hufanga fan, right? I think he is better suited as a run defender, as opposed to a pass type, pass safety, coverage, right? Yeah. So someone who's in coverage. I would go, if you can look in the defensive section and just go to safety and see who's available.
Have myself muted. Yeah, I do like Hufanga, but of course he is much better close to the line of scrimmage when he plays close and run support as opposed to his coverage. I was thinking more so to draft a free safety, but the safeties are available. Do you see the names, or do you want me to read them?
Yeah, no. There's three guys here, right? Brown from Penn State. That's my homer pick, but he also has some really, really good tape. He's explosive. He can play the run. He plays well in the coverage. He plays the deep third. Jamie Robinson out of Florida State is another guy the Niners have visited with. Bigger guy, solid player. Actually, there's four. And then the two Florida safeties. Trey Dean, I talked to him a couple times via DM after his Shrine Bowl performance. He had a really good Shrine Bowl. And then Rashard Torrance. Now, Torrance is probably a guy you could take later in the draft. But out of the three, I'm leaning Jamie Robinson here, partially because he is just a little bit bigger of a safety. But my heart is telling me to take Brown. But just for this exercise, I would probably go with Jamie Robinson.
All right, so we're going to Jamie Robinson's a pick, safety out of Florida State. I've been seeing his name pop up a lot, and I do like the draft board on this because I do recognize a lot of names that pop up. So I like it a little bit better in terms of comparison to mock draft database. So we are at pick 155, and if you want me to pick up the best availables are right there on the screen. If you want me to pull up any position groups, I can do so.
So the other, I would go edge here, and Byron Young out of Tennessee.
So Byron Young out of Tennessee. Okay, we're gonna go with that pick. All right, here we go. So Byron Young is the pick. Edge out of Tennessee. What do you like about
him? Long, good bend. He's got the ankle flexion that we like to see. That's a big thing we saw with Drake Jackson last year. The Niners love that about him, and I think he has that ability. He's a little bit raw. He needs to work on his hands, and that's something that when you're taking a guy at 157 or whatever it is, 156, that's a guy you want to come in. He's going to maybe take 20-30% of the snaps, right? He's not going to be a starter. He's not going to be a guy that you're going to rely on heavily right away. It's a guy that can be your Charles Omenihu type of player. He's your type of player that's going to come in on third downs. He's your type of player that's going to come in maybe just to give Nick Bosa a breather on that second down after he had a long drive the previous drive, right? This is where you have to fill in your ancillary pieces. Do I think the Niners take all 11 picks in this draft? No, because there's not even 11 roster spots available.
Exactly.
There's probably 5 or 6. So if you're going to be taken in these first 5, 6, these first 5 or 6 picks, you're probably going to have a role either special teams or as a rotational player. So I do like Byron Young there. So I like him quite a bit.
All right, cool, awesome. So 164. These are the best available. If you want me to go to any position group, I can.
Can you scroll up or no? Is it all the way through?
Let's scroll all the way up. Yeah. Luke Schumacher's at the top.
I'm going to take linebacker Dorian Williams out of Tulane. The Niners do need to find the Azeez Al-Shaair replacement, and what better way to do so by taking a guy late in the draft, right? A guy who doesn't have to contribute right away, who could be a special teamer. He needs to put on a little bit of weight. Perfect time to do so while you have to back up DFF, Fred and Dre. You can be the fourth linebacker. You can be a guy who they can develop and bring up, right? Because, do we know, are we sure that Dre Greenlaw is going to do a second contract or a third contract with the Niners, right? Because he could potentially price himself out. So this is where you're looking to churn the roster in a couple of years, because Dre Greenlaw only did a 3-year extension.
Yeah.
So, this is where you're going to start to find pieces that maybe you can turn the roster with. Maybe this guy can turn into something. This is where you're getting your projects, right? Late in the draft. So I'm all in on Dorian Williams. I do like him quite a bit. Let me get his numbers real quick. I think he had a really good combine. Give me just a second.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like this draft board. This draft simulation isn't as PFF to me has the nicest looking interface.
Absolutely.
In terms of the mock drafts, but this one doesn't look as nice. But I like this one though, just in terms of the players they list.
The big one on Dorian Williams, his 10-yard split was 1.54. Right,
okay.
So that's huge. Trying to find his 40. Not that the 40 is a major big deal.
Yeah.
He ran a 4.49.
That's good.
He's got 10 and a quarter inch hands. He's 6'1", 228. He fits the profile. He fits that type of player.
He does.
Right? He has good coverage skills. His 10-yard split was 1.454. He's got long arms, 80-inch wingspan.
Wow, that's crazy.
This is a big deal here, right? So this is where that's why I'm in on him. He has the tools. He has the things you can work on. Does he need to gain a little more weight, or maybe just put on some, man muscle, NFL muscle? Yes, you get into an NFL weight room, get on an NFL meal plan, and get in a room with Fred and Dre. You're going to learn. You're going to pick up some things. You may be a guy that can come in and make an impact, right, in year 2 or 3. You don't need him right away. This is a guy you can stash. This is a guy that can be, he may be able to replace Oren Burks, right? Because you're paying Oren Burks quite a bit of money for a guy who's just special teams, right? You want to just keep churning the roster. That is my idea with this current 2023 draft. The back end of it is guys that you want to find that have these traits, fast, tall, big, you want some of these traits. And of course you want to make sure they have the mental side of it. And I think Dorian Williams fits that mold here.
There you go. Okay. I wasn't aware of him until you brought him up. So we got pick 173. If you want me to look at any other position groups I can, or we can just leave it as the best available. Just looking right now. Luke Schumacher, tight end, Will Mallory.
I'm going to take a quarterback here.
Okay. Who are you going to go with Tune?
I'm taking Clayton Tune. Yeah, I like Clayton Tune
from quarterback from Houston.
Again. Yep.
There you go.
And this is because the only reason I'm taking him is because we don't know what Purdy is. We don't know what Lance is. And we don't know what Sam Darnold is, right? Do the Niners are the thing is the Niners' future is so blurry because of their quarterback position, right? Is Sam going to be here throughout all of camp? Does he get cut? I mean, they gave him a decent contract. Do they trade? Is come the season, like you need to have backup plans. And a guy, Tune is a guy who could fall further, but if you can get him, showed some stuff in college. I have notes on these guys. Give me just a second.
Cool. I was gonna say before the 216th pick, which is what we're gonna make now, a player that the 49ers have interest in was picked right before us by the Commanders, which was Yaya Diaby, an edge from Louisville, pass rusher. I was like, oh, that'd be a good pick for us at that spot. I think. I'm not sure if you were looking to go that route.
Yeah, that's part of why I took Byron. I think Byron's just a little bit better of a player from Tennessee.
Gotcha.
No, I honestly haven't looked too much at Louisville at Dobby, too much. With Tune though, he's 6'3", he's 215. Right?
Okay.
Overall, in college, he put up some really decent numbers. Last year, 4,000 pass yards, 40 touchdowns.
Oh wow!
As a junior, he did 3,500 passing, 30 touchdowns, 10. He's consistent with the interceptions though. He hasn't had over 10. It's 10 from his. He had his redshirt junior year and then his junior year. Both years, 10 interceptions. And then last year, he exploded for 40 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So overall, he's a 63% passer. Last year, he was at 67%. In 2021, he was a 68% passer. Now, I don't feel about completion percentage versus accuracy, right? Because you can complete a pass that's over here, but are you accurate with your other passes, right? So he's a guy who has tools. He's a guy who would fit Kyle Shanahan's mold of just being a little bit mobile, but getting in his drop and making his read, getting the ball out in time. So I'm with Tune on this one.
Cool. Got it. So we're at pick 216, and we do have the best available. We got linebackers, Shake Hayward. Any names there jumping at me personally at this point in terms of the first 10 on the board? I don't recognize some of these guys, but if any position group you want me to pull up, I can do so.
I'm going to go here. Go where we at 216 as a pick.
216, the 6th round, bottom of the 6th round, basically.
Scroll down just a little bit more. Right there, Nick Herbert of Wisconsin.
Okay, I saw Carl Brooks. I was like, let me see Nick Herbert. I'm looking. Oh, Nick Herbig, the edge from Wisconsin. What do you like about this guy?
Just he has a motor. That's the biggest thing with him. Motor. He's got good bend. He's he's just a do it all type of guy. He's a good player. 6'2", 227. I'm just looking up I have the notes on him here.
Cool.
11 sacks last year in the Big Ten. He had some really good
Nice.
offensive tackles, right? So he got 11 sacks last year, 15 and a half tackles for loss. He's a game wrecker. He gets behind, he can get behind line of scrimmage. He can make plays. Again, another guy that you're not going to ask to start. You're not looking for starters in this draft for the Niners at this point, right? You're picking to something, right? These are guys you just want as contributors, guys who you're able to mold and maybe stash in your practice squad, or maybe just have them on the roster, let them develop, so that way no one takes them, right? Again, you're going to look to churn this roster here soon. So this is where, you have to do the best with what you can. Now, everyone gets weirded out about the pick selections, where they're picked at, but it's all about how you produce when the opportunities are presented to you. And every opportunity he had in Wisconsin was pretty damn solid. To have 11 sacks and 15 and a half tackles for loss. He got better every year. He played 3 years in college, right? He took a year off, probably the COVID year, if I'm not mistaken. So he had 9 sacks last year, or I'm sorry, in 2021, and then 11 in 2022. He played 13 games in 2011 and had 9 sacks, and he played 11 games in 22 and had 11 sacks. So, I mean, he's getting a sack a game.
Wow.
And that's what you want. Now, did he do that every game? I don't think so. He might have had a 2-sack game here or a 3-sack, you know what I mean? But it's the fact that it's evening out that, that's what that is averaging is at. So I'm good with Nick Herbig there.
Cool. All right. So we're in the 7th round at pick 222. And let me just see if I'm missing any comments in the chat. I feel bad because I have to have my other browser open and I can't necessarily read the chat while I'm doing
You gotta
my
get 2
drafts.
screens, boy.
Tommy Huxley. I need 2 screens for this. Tommy Huxley's in the house. Very loyal viewer. He said road to 1,000 subs. Appreciate it. Yeah. Not 1,000 subs yet, like 895, I think, right now. So
almost
I
there.
always,
That's good.
yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah. So see Kenny in here saying some stuff about the chat. We're just gonna get back right to it. Close this out. We got pick 222. Shake Hayward's at the top of the list. You want me to scroll down? Carl Brooks is still available, actually. D
You like Carl?
Yeah, from Bowling Green.
Go with Carl. Go with Carl.
No. But it's got to be who you want, though. I want it to be who you want because
go to hit defense.
Okay, defense. Who we going?
And then just go to defensive tackle.
D tackle. Okay. Carl Brooks is second. Nestor J. Silver is above
2 guys that I like here. I like Carl and I like Byron, but you can't have 2 Byron Youngs in the same draft. So I'm going to go Carl. Carl had an outstanding Senior Bowl. For the guys who were there.
What are his measurables? I'm trying to remember this. His measurables.
I'll get him. I have it. Look, I have to search him. I have like a reference sheet.
Oh, okay. And we're at basically the 7th round. 247th is the next pick, and some good players still available as well. There's still see who I recognize here on this list.
So he's 6'4", 280. Carl.
Okay, there you go. Okay,
right.
6'4", 280.
10 sacks in 2022. 18 tackles for loss. Played all 13 games. He seems to be durable. I don't see any major issues with him. Again, a guy that you want to develop. Again, a guy that you don't have to spend a lot of money on. Right? The Niners need to start churning this defensive line as well because, Armstead's getting older.
We lost some pieces too.
Javon Hargrave isn't young either, right? They gave him that 4-year deal, but it's really a 2-year deal with options. So how are they going to churn this? DJ Jones would have been nice to keep. And they're looking for that. They're looking for a guy similar to that build. So
Kalia Davis is the type of guy.
Yeah, Kalia Davis is in house already. So why not go ahead and get another guy who can be molded, a project, somebody who's just sitting on the, as your 3rd or 4th option, or maybe even just a practice squad guy that you can just mold and take on and see what he can do later on down the road. So I'm in on Carl Brooks there. Cool. Now, what is a 49ers draft without a running back?
Oh, there you go. You're right. Can we pull up the running backs, or you just want to go?
Yeah, just go hit offense.
Okay, so see who's available on running backs. Now this is where it's down to names I don't recognize. I would have known some names earlier.
I like Chris Rodriguez out of Kentucky. I like Hull out of Northwestern. There is. Scroll down just a little bit. Hassan Hall out of Georgia Tech, but I'm not taking him there. I'm probably gonna go with Chris or Hall. The Northwestern kid is pretty darn good. Give me just a second here.
All right, cool. Yeah, the running back I had my eye on, but probably got taken earlier, was Israel Abi Kananda, if I'm saying that right.
Oh yeah, he's nice.
Yeah. Ted H put me onto him, and he's really good. I like him.
Evan Hall, 5'11". 221 carries last year, 913 yards. He's a pass catching back. The Niners love their pass catching backs. 55 receptions, 546 yards, 9 yards per reception. So I'm gonna go with Hall here.
Evan Hall from Northwestern. Okay, here we go. Running back. So that's our. I think we got 2 more picks. Did I say? Oh, I got to select them now. There you go. So we're at pick 253, and then after that we'll have 255 and close it out with that one. So pick 253, who is still available? Chris Rodriguez Jr. is still available. Some names that may jump out at you.
The thing with this draft that I just noticed, I didn't take one corner, and I think we should.
You didn't. I thought it's a really good corner draft. I don't.
Yeah, I think the way we selected it just didn't run that way.
Yeah.
Just go to defense and see who's available at corner.
Okay, see who's available at corner.
Yeah.
Since we didn't go that route.
Noah Daniels out of TCU.
Noah Daniels out of TCU? All right, cool.
I haven't watched too much of him, but what I do know, he's got good hands. He plays the ball well in the air. He's going to be, he's a developmental guy. He's a guy that's just going to need more reps. And, the Niners are in that mold. Like, are they, again, who is he going to unseat? You have Travis Ward. You have Demo, got Isaiah Oliver now, right? You have to figure out what they're going to do with these players. Like, you have to find spots and guys who may or may not make the roster at this point, right? Now, the projection on Noah Daniels is he's going to be a 3rd-round pick. So for him to fall in this draft this way, PFN does they have a really good algorithm. So they've been pretty accurate with some of this stuff. I don't know that he's going to be a 3rd-round pick. But he's 6 foot, 194. He just interception, no pass defenses last year. He didn't have the greatest season, So that's probably why he's going to fall, if I had to guess. But it's a guy that you can potentially mold. Again, we're looking for players that you can mold and be just contributors on special teams, or later on down the road, someone who they can go to if they need to in a pinch.
Got it. So with pick 255, the best available, so a lot of people, we didn't address kicker. How are you with the kicker situation? Are you okay with Zane Gonzalez?
I don't know. I mean, Robbie's still available. I think they'll kiss and make up. I think that
really okay.
I think they'll figure something out. But
even after that trade, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conditional 7th in 2025.
That's nothing. Exactly. That is nothing. That is nothing. So where are we going? Do you want me to pull up any group, or do you see any names you like? Or
at this point, I'm like you, bro. I don't know half these guys.
I don't recognize these names this late.
Scroll down just a little bit.
Yasser Abdullah is a name I recognize. The edge from Louisville. Usually I don't recall him ever falling that far though. Yasser Abdullah.
Yeah,
edge from Louisville. That's the one name I do recognize on this whole list.
And scroll down just a little bit more. There we go. The edge player from Rice. He's already visited. He's visited with the Niners. Akina and Nachua.
There you go. I see it. It's a really hard name to say. Ikina Enechukwu. Enechukwu. There you go. The edge from Rice. So the Niners did meet up with. That's very important, actually. Mm-hmm. You know anything about his game by any chance? Or
that he's very, very raw. He is very, very raw. So, I don't know that he's going to be a guy that they're going to play right away. But if the Niners walk away with their first 4 picks the way we selected them, I think they'd be very, very happy. You get a tight end because you need to help Kittle. You need to create competition at offensive tackle. And your safety, we know Gibson's not here for a long time, right? So you need to figure that out. And then edge, of course, Byron Young. You cannot have enough edge rushers. The Niners have shown you that they want to keep churning and burning, not churning and burning, but churning the roster and churning during the games that, they don't want Bosa taking more than 70% of the snaps. They want him in there that 65 number so that he's fresh, especially when the playoffs come. So
Great way
those
to put
first
it.
four, and even Dorian Williams, the guy that you can take later on. So
Yeah, so let's go through the rundown of all the picks. So with Sam Laporta, pick 99th overall, tight end out of Iowa. Like him, he kind of reminds me of Kittle a little bit. Tyler Steiner is a right tackle. They're gonna try to plug him at right tackle, basically. Offensive tackle from Alabama. Jamie Robinson, safety from Florida State at 102. 155, Byron Young, edge out of Tennessee. 164, Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane. He told me a lot of great things about his athleticism. At 173, we went quarterback, Clayton Tune, QB out of Houston. 216, Nick Herbig, edge out of Wisconsin. 222, Carl Brooks, D tackle out of Bowling Green. 247, Evan Hull, running back out of Northwestern. 253, we addressed the cornerback position with Noah Daniels. And the final pick of the draft, Ikenna Enich. This is a very hard name to say. Enechukwu. Ikenna Enechukwu out of the edge out of Rice. Niners have met up with him, like you said. So, hey, that's Javier's mock draft. It's a lot of fun doing that, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just gonna check something here. Yeah, Ikenna's 6'3", 256. Like, he fits the mold.
Okay, there you go.
He fits that mold. He fits that Harold Landry mold. He fits that Bruce Irvin mold. Like, that's the mold that the Niners are looking for, and you can see that with the Drake Jackson selection and the way that when the Niners first got here, that Leo position, right? That's the guy that's going to be able to bend and get around the edge, and he's gonna, he's long. He's got to learn how to set his hands and anchor better. But that's stuff that's going to come with time. You see him falling in these drafts. He's a guy that's going to just take time to develop, and that's what they're looking for.
Yep. Just gonna follow some of these comments because I had to have the other browser windows, so I couldn't really follow the comments as much. So what I missed in the comment section? Tommy Huxley says, "Please no running backs in the third round." Everybody hates that for some reason.
Well, I mean, sure.
So yeah,
back years.
Yeah, if they got Israel Kananda in the third
round,
I'm gonna be happy with that. So yeah, Kenny keeps asking me about Devin Achane from Texas A&M. I didn't know about him until the show started, and he told me his name. So do you have a rundown on him?
Not too much, except the guy I work with. He's a huge A&M fan. He's always like, "He'd be perfect for the Niners. He'd be perfect for the Niners." So I'm gonna. That's the third or fourth person to mention.
Is he a running back or?
I believe so. I haven't seen too much of him, but I know from the guy that I talked to, he's very much a guy that I should be watching.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pull up his film after YouTube because I just is over because Kenny keeps talking about him.
Yeah. Yes, he's a guy that's probably gonna go third or fourth round. Easy.
Okay, got it. All right, here we go. So Damian Lee says in my Charlton Heston voice to the Rams front office, "Let my players go." Brian Cope's in the house. He says, "What's up, Faithful?" Check out Brian Cope on his YouTube channel. He was on the East Coast Niner Faithful podcast before the show started. I was watching a little bit of it. Says to hit the like button. And Ted Talk says, "Nice work, Javi." Tommy says, "Good picks." Yeah, I really appreciate everybody in the chat participating and watching the show. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. If you're going to follow Javier on social media, just click the description box of this video, and it will take you to his links to his Twitter and his YouTube. He does the Fourth and Goal podcast, but it sounds like he's going to take a long break from it and not going to be involved for a bit due to work reasons. Looks like I lost him again on the feed. If he comes back on, he'll let me know. He'll probably send me a text if he can't get back on. Checking my phone right now just in case. But we lost him earlier and he came back, but he'll probably come back. We run this. So when we do YouTube streams, if you're not aware of it, there's a separate website that we use called StreamYard, and we run our camera through that stream and our internet through that stream, and that stream takes us to YouTube. And sometimes it doesn't always work and it's not always pretty. If you've ever done it before, you know how it is. So for that reason, I lost Javier. See if guess he's trying to come back on. Let me just kind of follow up in the chat if there's any questions. Looks like Javier's going to come back on. So, Tommy, you're on vacation. Okay, cool. Appreciate you watching. He says he's off for spring break. There you go. Cool, man. Let's see if I missed any good comments in the chat. And who's up in here? Oh yeah, I see this name right here. So, I think he was talking about that linebacker. He says, "How does he compare to Cam Jones or Mohamed Diabate linebacker?" I've heard of Mohamed Diabate a whole bunch about this draft. I just haven't watched much of his film, but I know he's definitely a linebacker whose names I've seen pop up on a lot of these mock drafts, and just seen people on Twitter and just random places mention him. As far as what I do, in the draft, this is Brazil talk about our needs. He said, offensive linemen. I feel we should draft at least 2. Yeah, I want to go with at least 2 linemen as well. Uh, and he's an edge cornerback, free safety, and D tackle. I want a big, huge, like 6'4", 335-pound bona fide run stuffer. Just a guy that you could throw in on first or second downs from time to time, just to bolster the run defense. Because if you look at our D line, it's just a bunch of smaller, especially the D tackle. It's a bunch of smaller athletic D tackles. I mean, we don't have that big, huge, gigantic guy. And I'm not saying that the whole D line has to be all built like that, but just have one guy like that that's different in the mix. I think that would help the run defense a whole lot. Let me see if I got another text from Javier. It looks like he's trying to get back on. Okay, that text was for somebody else. It's all good. But if he tries to get back on, it's cool. Otherwise, we'll close the show out. Yeah, but I definitely want to go offensive lineman. My dream world scenario is to try to get a guy like DeJuan Jones. If we can somehow trade and get him, but we don't really have much capital, but we do have some capital. So it looks like Javier is coming back on. But DeJuan Jones from Ohio State is like the tackle. I would just love to get Javier's back. What's up, Javier? I see you, man. I forgot what you were saying at the end. Do you remember, or what we were talking about? Just going over the draft and some questions. Oh, it looks like it's still back on that thing, huh? Let me remove him and try to bring him back. There you go. It looks like you're a little slow. Let me see if I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now. Yeah. Not sure you were covering last before you dipped out. Looks like it's still slowing down again. I hear you now. There you go. I can hear you now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do this. Let's end on a good note. Hey, appreciate you making all those picks, introducing us to all these new players that the 49ers may possibly draft and take. So it's very informative, and you brought up, you had a lot of good takes. He's got some connection issues. I'll wait till he's here until I close it out. But yeah, we'll see what Kenny's question is. He says, I feel Niners should have waited and given Ayuk a deal instead of Debo, especially after acquiring CMC. Dude, hey man, it's hard to not disagree. I mean, Debo's this amazing playmaker, but he's not like your pure wide receiver that's gonna run all kinds of crazy routes and shake up the whole secondary. That's not who he is, and he may drop a few passes here and there. Ayuk's more of your pure receiver. And okay. Yeah, Javier texted me, says he thinks that he may not be able to come back on. But here, one more shot. Let's see if he's back. There you go. Okay, I see you now. Yeah, I see you now.
Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, it's all good, man. It's happened to me before.
It's storming pretty bad here, so I don't mean ruin your
okay, it's all good, man. Yeah, hey, I just want to say it's been awesome having you on. We learned a lot about your background as a Niner fan and certain things that you've had in terms of inside information. I don't know I think he was trying to say something and he couldn't, and then it stopped. Let me see if I can remove him and come back. There you go. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm not getting the sound at all.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now I hear you. Welcome to the wild world of streaming live on YouTube. Okay, I think I hear you now. He's going through the motions with his his connection. I think I just may just close it out right here. I don't want to keep having to put him through this. But hey, it's been awesome. It looks like he's leaving and coming back. Oh, Damian Lee was here. Okay, cool, man. Great to have Damian Lee on. He's a really good dude up in the chats of these YouTube streams. I saw him on one stream actually where he was participating. It was pretty cool. Let me just close this out because hey, man, it's been a lot of fun. We got some more guests lined up for this offseason. Kenny's laughing. He's loving it. I know each time I try to do it, I just can't do it. But I appreciate all you guys up in the chat. I mentioned earlier that we're going to do a wrestling show. It's going to be called From Parts Unknown, actually. And what it is just going to be me and Lawrence Jackson, who's also known as Platform 246. He's going to be on here. And we're going to be talking old school wrestling. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And when I mean old school wrestling, we're going to be talking wrestling from the 80s. Oh, there you go. There's Javier. And every time I bring you back on, man, it's like you just freeze up again, man. It's good. You hear me, dude?
Hey, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
It's all good. Yeah, I hear you now. Hey, I just want to thank you for coming on. We're just gonna close the show out now.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's
Appreciate
just a little
everybody in the
delayed, but
chat.
yeah, no, I know you're probably getting out of here, but just want to say thanks for having me on, and
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on, dude. Really appreciate you. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for watching 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. Stay tuned. We're going to be dropping that new old school wrestling podcast. Javier, it's been awesome having you on. Thank you, everybody, for watching 49er Minded, where we get into the minds of 49er fans. Keep repping those 49ers and stay 49er Minded. Peace. Let's go, Niners. Come on, 49 faithful, let's get it.
Because it's 49er mind.
We gotta do this one time for the Empire.
It's 49er mind. It's 49er mind.
We gotta get that brick by brick real quick.
49er mind.
Yeah, area. Yo, we can't listen to them haters, man.
49er mind.
We from the Bay.
49er mind.
We them San Francisco 49ers.
49er mind.
We got that red and gold blood inside us.
49er mind.